volunteering with your pet cat. My name is Margaret Callahan. I'm the National Director of Programs for Pet Partners, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have one of our seasoned handlers here with us today. Dee has been with Pet Partners since 2005, and he's also a licensed team evaluator in Utah. He's currently registered with 3 cats and a dog. Dee, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Thank you, Mary Margaret, and thank you all for being here. My name is Dion Dostaler, and I live in a small rural county in the northern part of Utah where it's a balmy 75 degrees today. I'm an engineer by education, but I am retired twice, once from the military and once as a civilian. My work over that time involved working on the design and maintenance of missiles, so I guess I could actually claim to be an honest-to-God rocket scientist. I became involved with the therapy animals about 10 years ago after reading a magazine article about the Delta Society, that's Pet Partners' previous name. And I'd always had 1 or 2 pets. I was a widower at the time, had just retired, and wanted something useful to do. So after a little bit of searching, I found the Utah Animal Assisted Therapy Association here in Salt Lake. That's the name previous to the current Therapy Animals of Utah, or TAO. I joined them and started providing support as a volunteer for their team evaluations. And that's something I'd strongly recommend a potential handler to do, as it, more than anything else, will give you an understanding about what's expected of a therapy team and what it really means to be a therapy team. And after that, as they say, the rest is history. I did have a cat at the time that I thought would be excellent for therapy work, so we tested and became a pet partner team. Since then, I've had 5 other cat partners. 3 of them have passed over the Rainbow Bridge, 1 that's now retired, and 1 that belongs to a friend, and my current main partner, Mr. Happy. The picture you see in front of you is Maisie Lou, my retired therapy cat. She worked for about 3.5 years. And as Mary Margaret mentioned, about a year ago, I was persuaded to become a team evaluator, and I specialize in, you guessed it, cats. Back to you, Mary Margaret.
Thanks, Dee. We're glad to have you here today. So, therapy animal teams come in all shapes and sizes and visit in a variety of settings, and we're going to discuss the requirements for both animals and handlers. This session hopefully will help you decide if it's time to get started in the process to become a Pet Partners therapy animal team. Pet Partners teams visit in a wide variety of locations with a large range of client types. Any of these settings can be extremely rewarding, but the overarching consideration is what setting will be the best match for you and your animal. Some visits are just social in nature. They could just be a chance to make conversation, to cheer someone up, reduce their stress, or provide a welcome distraction. Other visits are more structured. For example, when a team works with a physical therapist and brushing the cat is an exercise for the patient. Visits that have the oversight of a medical professional and are goal-oriented are considered animal-assisted therapy, or AAT. Visits that are social or even educational in nature are considered animal-assisted activities, or AAA. Pet Partners teams can provide both AAA and AAT, depending upon where they visit. So, Dee, why don't you share with us a little bit about some of the visits that you make as a team?
The primary facility that I visit at right now is a nursing home, although we have visited veterans' homes. We do visit a veterans' home now when requested. In the past, I have also been involved in the hospice work, although not actively right now. The settings I've been in are hospitals, assisted living facilities, and nursing facilities. I'd like to mention here that most of my comments are related to cats and what are good environments for cats. I do not visit some situations, such as a school reading program, even though Mr. Happy, my current cat, is tested as being able to cope with that kind of environment. I find that cats tend to stress out quickly if they're involved in a complex, chaotic type environment, and do much better in quiet, more personal, one-on-one type situations. The sorts of things that I do with a cat when I go on a visit is basically whatever the client wants, as long as it's safe for my cat. The vast majority of the people just request to hold him and pet him. They want him on their lap, they'll want him to lie next to him on their bed, but they all want him near so that they can pet him. And they want to talk and reminisce about the cats that they've had and that they miss. I've not had anyone yet ask to brush him or give him a treat, although I carry a brush and have a treat they can offer him. I like to keep the interaction focused on the client and their memories so that they have a pleasant, simple, comforting visit, which also keeps the stress on my cat reduced as well. Are all facilities open to cats? The short answer is yes. As I mentioned above, I personally visited a variety of facilities with my cats. And I think that any facility open to dog teams will also accept a cat team or other pet partner type of team. I found that many of the facilities have clients that are cat people and would welcome a visit from a cat team. Just need to be asked if they want to have that kind of a visit. Unfortunately, we don't have near as many cat teams as needed or wanted. I was talking to Mary Margaret before we started this, and she mentioned that they have maybe upwards of 9,500 dog teams, but only a couple hundred cat teams. Some facilities believe that cats are more a danger to their clients than they actually are. And we need to be cognizant of that. I had one organization say they would not accept my cat for visiting unless I had her declawed. Of course, I refused, but I also spent a considerable amount of time with them explaining the nature of a therapy cat, and in the end they relented, and I did visit quite a number of their clients. So taking the time to work with the employees of an organization is sometimes all it takes to gain admittance to a facility. But all in all, most near any facility that will take a therapy team of any kind will also take one for cats. And back to you, Mary Margaret.
Thanks, Dee. So as Dee mentioned, although dogs are our most popular species registered as a pet partner team, we do have 9 different species of animals that we do register for therapy work, the most popular being dogs, cats, and horses. We don't register wild or exotic animals such as snakes and ferrets, and we also don't register domesticated farm animals such as chickens and ducks. What we do want to make sure is that any animal who's visiting as a pet partner is doing so, and we have the information so that they are visiting safely with their stress managed and maintained by a responsible handler. If you're considering registering with a cat, let's review these eligibility questions to determine if this is a good fit for you. Cats must be at least 1 year old and have lived with their owner for at least 6 months. Your cat should be reliably house trained and have to be on a leash at all times. For the safety of your animal and the people that you visit, animals also need to be in good health and free of internal and external parasites. They shouldn't be on medications such as antibiotics, antifungals, or immunosuppressives when they evaluate or visit. But once they complete a medication, they are, of course, welcome to resume visiting. If your animal meets these requirements and has some good basic obedience and social skills, this could be a good fit for you. Dee's going to speak more later about what obedience skills in cats could look like. a couple other things to consider is that good therapy animals should accept interactions with strangers in a pleasant and forgiving, even welcoming manner, as opposed to just tolerating them. They should also demonstrate a species-specific body language that indicates that they're interested and relaxed in these interactions. So for a cat, that might be ears that are up and forward, whiskers that are fanned out, maybe purring, and certainly a soft and relaxed body as opposed to being tense. If your animal looks to you when they're unsure or nervous or maybe need guidance, you have a strong bond, and that's such an important component of being a therapy animal team with pet partners. So that's an excellent sign. So Dee, tell us a little bit about sort of the special skills or qualities you think a successful therapy cat might need to have.
Well, as you've just mentioned, a lot of the characteristics that therapy animals should have were shown on that particular slide. It's my experience that cats in general appear to the public to be aloof and self-confident and independent, but I found their personalities span the gamut just like any other animal. But in my mind, the characteristics of sociability, patience, and gentleness are fairly rare, and especially in cats. And what I thought I would do here was to divert a little bit and talk about what I would recommend to identify a good therapy cat candidate. The two things that I considered most important in a therapy team is whether the dog, cat, or other animal, but especially the cat, is firstly the bond between the handler and the cat, and secondly an outgoing personality for both. You've mentioned that a bit in that previous slide, but I'd also like to mention that most of the things I'm going to say about this throughout the rest of the webinar are really my opinions and things that I've discovered through experience. But the people that are listening in here may also find that there are exceptions to these, and I recognize that. If you think you already have a cat that has the right stuff, some of this may not apply to you, but if not, you might be looking for one to adopt. And all of my therapy cats are rescues. When I go to an adoption to look for a cat pet partner, what I look for is one that wants to be with me, because as Mary Margaret mentioned, that animal-human bond is critical. That's what makes the team work. In general, a cat that picks his staff, that would be you and me, the team handler, will also make a good therapy cat. If you go to an adoption agency or adoption event and you find a cat that will come to you and stay with you, then he or she has already expressed some of the trust in you as a handler, and also shown a personality trait of accepting strangers. I would recommend that the cat at least be 2 years old. And the reason for this is that they've gone through their kitten stage and their true personality is beginning to shine and come out. When you adopt a cat, though, however, there are no guarantees that eventually it will make a good therapy cat. So, you know, if that's what you're looking for, you have to be prepared to not accept that if a cat doesn't work out. But once you adopt it, pet partners want you to look at it or observe it for at least 6 months, and the reason for that is to get to know its true personality. The cat should be mellow or laid back, tolerant, and gentle. And in that regard, I've found males to be better than females, although I've had both as my pet partners. And back to you, Mary Margaret.
Thanks, Dee. So animals are only one part of the equation. Obviously, Pet Partners is also invested in making sure we have qualified and successful handlers. And the primary role of the handler is to act as your animal's guardian. You're your animal's best advocate, and this means you're responsible for making decisions about what is and isn't appropriate during the visit. Dee sort of touched on that a little bit when he talked about what facilities he chooses to visit with his animals and why. It's your job to be sure your animal's in good health, that it's been properly groomed, and then it's enjoying interactions with the people you visit. All these things contribute to being a successful handler with pet partners. So Pet Partners is a volunteer organization, and all therapy animal handlers, licensed instructors, and team evaluators are volunteers in their community, committed to promoting animal-assisted interactions. If you do decide to register, you'll be able to approach facilities in your own community and offer to volunteer as a therapy animal team. You'll also need to follow any of the volunteer requirements of the site where you may choose to volunteer. So this could include completing a volunteer application or background check with the facility you're particularly interested in volunteering at. As a Pet Partners volunteer, it's up to you to choose where you'd like to volunteer and how often. Some teams visit once a week or more, other teams far less frequently. Although visits never exceed 2 hours a day, remember that you will have to spend some time preparing for your visit, including bathing and grooming your animal before each visit. And you'll want to reserve some time afterwards to unwind with your pet, whether that's playing or cuddling after a job well done. So Dee is going to share with us a little bit about some of these things that really happen before and during visits. We get questions about grooming and also cats on a leash. So I'm going to let Dee step in.
Thanks, Mary Margaret. It's extremely important when you go to visit that you present a professional appearance to the people that are the staff of the facility you're going to visit, as well as the people that you're going to actually interact with. And one of the big things that seems to be a boo-boo for cat people is the grooming part before visits. There are 4 things I consider when I'm grooming a cat. And those are their nails, their teeth, their ears, and that most feared task, baths. But they all need to be done for each visit. Clipping nails is fairly normal, although not necessarily easy. Some cats just take it in stride, like Mr. Happy, and for others it's a struggle, like my Maisie Lou, who has hairy paws which conceal the nails. Hers are basically a 10-event task, and you're lucky to get one on each event. But that's a normal thing that gets done, and if one is a bit reluctant to do that yourself, usually a grooming salon will do that for a nominal fee for clipping the nails. Teeth are something else you need to check. They should be clean, and there should be they should have healthy gums and whatnot. A good cleaning, though, when needed, is best done periodically by the vet under anesthesia. I found that most cats don't need to be taken care of, but maybe once every couple of years or so. Some cats will tolerate them being brushed before every visit, and if your cat will take them, you can use some of the treats like greenies to help keep the tartar down on their teeth. I feed my cats dry kibble, and that helps keep their teeth clean all the time. Ears should also be checked to make sure that they're clean. They generally are not a problem, but if they need a little bit of help, usually a moistened Q-tip can be take care of that relatively easily. Baths. Most cats do not like to be wet, but each cat is going to react differently to the process. Some of them will accept it willingly, some will, or most will tolerate it grudgingly, and some won't have anything to do with it whatsoever. If you're in that last category, then you have a good task ahead of you to become a pet partner. However, this is one area in particular that a new owner might try to condition their animal. You might, for instance, start out wiping him or her with a moist cloth or one of these dander wipes, and then gradually go to a wet one and see if they'll stand in a puddle of water in the sink, etc. Some cats just will never accept a bath. I know one lady who has to get into the tub with her cat in order to make sure that she gets him bathed. The other thing to do is to make sure that whatever shampoo you use, that it's unscented, as a number of the clients you visit can be allergic to scents of any kind. And there are a number of good ones available. I'm not going to endorse them, but Nature's Miracle makes good shampoos, and Top Paw is good as well. And if your cat has something like a sensitive skin, there's hypoallergenic cats or hypoallergenic shampoos for cats. And there's also exfoliating ones for cats with a dry skin. What I try to do in between the baths is to try to brush the coat regularly, just to keep the matting down, and again to get them used to it during a visit, as well as make them a little more tolerant to taking a bath when it's needed. The other item is cats on a leash. Cats should always be leashed, and you should always have a firm grip on the leash. I also recommend using a harness rather than relying on just a collar. In the previous slide, you saw the cat had a harness on. Those wily little cats are going to slip a collar before you know it. They're quick and they can be hard to control. They'll dive for the nearest hole or cave or under a bed or a piece of furniture if you're visiting somebody's room. And if you're not able to stop them, getting them back out will be a lot easier if they're harnessed and leashed. So my recommendation is always use a harness and always have a leash with a firm grip on it. And back to you, Mary Margaret.
Thanks, Dee. So training to become a team can be done in whatever way fits you best. Obviously for cats that may be just working at home, but certainly some people choose to take an animal training class. Basic obedience and good manners for cats does include being comfortable being handled and touched all over their body, sitting comfortably in someone else's lap, accepting petting from strangers, and remaining calm amid distraction or in crowds. Additionally, your cat's going to need to be comfortable being carried past other animals without displaying fear or aggression. So, Dee, I'm putting you on the spot again here. For someone who thinks maybe their cat does have the right stuff, maybe he does have the right temperament, are there things that you would recommend they could practice that would help them be successful?
As a matter of fact, there are some things that one can do to help your cat become a therapy cat. Touched on some of those things that can be practiced, the various aspects of grooming, bathing, brushing, that sort of thing. Almost anything associated with the visiting process can be practiced. The idea is for your cat to at least tolerate, if not accept, what they're going to experience as part of the preparation and actual visit. And here I guess I'll mention the concept of positive reinforcement. Most cats do not respond to treats per se. Mine won't. And I've got a shelf full of treats to prove it. However, if yours does, then you need to reward him or her every time you practice something. For instance, wearing a harness. That's one of the things a cat doesn't particularly care to do. They don't like to be confined. However, if you put it on for a minute or two and then take it off, reward your pet. Next time, leave it on a little bit longer, and then again, give a reward when you take it off. So by gradually increasing the time that the harness is being worn, then hopefully your animal will become more accustomed to that particular aspect. Another item that you could use would be riding in a carrier. Most cats don't like to travel. So take him out for a short ride. Then when you get back home, give him a reward when you let her out. Next time, make it a longer ride. And by the way, I would mention here something else that I've found useful. I use a dedicated carrier for my visits. Most animals are going to associate a carrier with something unpleasant, such as a visit to the vet or the groomer. In my case, that's a different carrier than the one I use for visits. So that when I put them into their special visiting carrier, the only thing I want them to associate with it is going on a visit, not the other unpleasant things. You can take them to a pet store, get them used to the noise, the hustle, the bustle, the presence of other animals. But here you need to be particularly alert to signs of stress. Most cats are not tolerant of that kind of a situation for very long. And he may only be able to tolerate for a few minutes, but that's okay. When you do something like that, the idea is to see how he reacts and get him used to it. Sometimes you'll find that your cat never does, and therefore may not be a good candidate for therapy work. So any of those sorts of things that you want to get your cat used to doing, start out with just a short experience with it, and then gradually increase it and reward them every time. I've just recently found a treat that Mr. Happy enjoys, so when we get back home from a visit, I give him his little treat. We just went on a visit where the situation escalated into more of a complex environment. When I got home, he wanted to be treated twice. The last thing I think I'd mention in this regard, although you can't practice it per se, is how frequent do you go out to visit. When I started out with my cat teams, I was eager to please the facilities, and I visited several of them several times a month whenever they requested it. What I found out is that my cat partner got burned out relatively quickly. You'll find that in some dog teams that they are visiting 8-10 years at a time. I was finding out that my first few cats were getting burned out after about a year or two of this constant visiting and stress. So I now restrict how often I go take Mr. Happy out, because I don't want to find him stressed out to the point where he's going to quit doing it. So I generally visit with him once a month, or sometimes twice. I try to keep the visits about 3 weeks apart. Mr. Happy is a jewel, and any therapy cat is a precious resource. You'll want to keep doing this for as long as possible. And back to you, Mary Margaret.
Thanks, Dee. That's some great practical advice. It's very helpful. I'm going to take just a couple minutes to go through some of the quick steps about if you were interested in registering as a Pet Partners Therapy Animal Team, what you'd need to do. Before beginning these steps, what you do want to do is make sure that there's a licensed team evaluator in your area. Although Pet Partners is active in 48 states, we aren't in every community, and you are going to need access to an in-person evaluation in order to be registered. There's certainly something magical about the interactions between humans and animals, but there's actually a lot to know about how to accomplish that, to make that moment actually happen. The Pet Partners Therapy Animal Handler course, handlers learn the skills that they need to visit safely, as well as what to expect from their team evaluation so that they can prepare for success. Successful completion of this course in either instructor-led or online format is required for your registration as a Pet Partners Therapy Animal Team. At Pet Partners, the health and safety of your animal is important to us. In order to participate in the therapy animal program, your veterinarian must sign the animal health screening form. Your animal should be in good health to participate and not currently taking any medications such as antibiotics, antifungals, or immunosuppressives. For facilities where you want to be visiting, they'll want you to ensure that your animal will not pose a risk to their clients, so your animal should be free of internal and external parasites. Additionally, dogs, cats, horses, llamas, alpacas, and pigs need to be vaccinated against rabies. Evaluations are the individual session with a prospective team and a licensed pet partner evaluator. They typically last about 45 minutes and resemble a role play, like what you might experience while you're on a visit. During the team evaluation, we'll be looking at how well you, the handler, interprets and manages your cat's behavior and how well the animal responds to you as the handler. The emphasis is that your animal is under control at all times and that the team inspires confidence with those it interacts with. At no time will your animal be put in a situation that's dangerous. The pet partners of team evaluators who conduct these evaluations are trained by pet partners and know that the well-being of our animals comes first, no matter what. At no point in the evaluation will animals be intentionally frightened or injured. There are two parts to the evaluation. The skills portion of the evaluation is the focus on demonstrating basic obedience skills even amidst distraction. For a cat, they'll need to stay in place on a person's lap and be carried past a neutral dog, for example. Additionally, you'll need to interact and role play with the evaluator while showing you can be attentive to your animal. The aptitude portion of the evaluation, you'll be assessed on how well you interact with the evaluator and the evaluator's assistants as you simulate being on a visit. You'll be expected to help support and encourage your animal as they meet strangers, some of whom may use medical equipment, speak loudly, or move erratically. This helps determine the most appropriate environment for you and your animal to visit. During this portion of the evaluation, how you demonstrate your handler skills will be as important as demonstrating the animal's aptitude. Once you've completed your coursework and had your vet sign your animal health screening form and then successfully passed your evaluation, you can submit your registration. The timely completion of your registration packet demonstrates you're familiar and ready to follow all the policies and procedures of the Pet Partners Therapy Animal Program. Once your registration has been received and reviewed by Pet Partners, you'll receive a photo ID badge with your ID number and expiration date. Teams do need to renew every 2 years to be with Pet Partners. There are a number of benefits to becoming a registered therapy animal team. As a pet partner, you'll receive $2 million primary liability insurance when you're volunteering, your ID badge with a photo of you and your animal, and a collar tag for your animal. Also, access to free continuing education courses that can help you be more effective when you're visiting clients. We also have the opportunity for you to find new facilities who are seeking therapy animal teams, and other wonderful benefits such as the Pet Partners Interactions magazine. Most of all, you'll have the opportunity and the satisfaction of helping people in need in your own community. The greatest benefit is knowing that you're a part of a highly esteemed program that really set the standards for incorporating animals in medical care. We've come to the end of our formal presentation, so I hope you'll all join me in thanking Dee, who joined us today and brought a great deal of his expertise. It was wonderful to have you, Dee. We really appreciate it. I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're excited to see so much interest in cats as therapy animals. Pet Partners is proud to register so many different species of animals, and we'd love to see our cat registrations continue to grow. So thanks so much for joining.